Alright guys, so this is stuff I'm watching for May 12th, 2025. I should probably move this down here. So just to clarify, these everything, all these indexes are not my positions. Everything PLTR and below is what I own. I just have these indexes on here to track stuff throughout the day, instead of going back and forth. This is my focus list, and then my red list is my need more sideways list. So I currently own PLTR, Tesla SO5, PRCH, MSTR, not MSTR, but I own MSTX. But I have I look at the unleveraged version for trailing, not the leveraged version. But so basically, everyone's talking about a China and U.S. trade deal. Whether that ends up being sell the news or not, we have yet to see. I would have expected a better reaction from Bitcoin, to be honest. There really was no reaction. The only thing we reacted off of was when China confirmed it right here. You saw some volume push come into the market, but other than that, kind of weak. But this thing's also, this thing has ran, over 40% off the lows. So, there's a chance the stuff is priced in. So tomorrow, what I'm looking for is, well, with this trade deal, we might gap up. So I don't know how all this stuff is going to look at open. We might just see a bunch of this stuff gap up. But what I am looking at right now is I'm looking at PLTR, looking at Root, I'm looking at IONQ for my top 3 long ideas. IONQ is my least favorite because this thing really kind of lacks momentum. Like, this is kind of just choppy here. It's kind of just choppy, but it's using this previous resistance now as support. And it formed an inside day, some tightness right at this level. It also broke out right here before, same level now. And we do know, if this thing does get going, it has the ability to trend. We've seen it trend in the past. So it's not bad. This is kind of like a 3.5 star trade idea. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It could get going. It's an 8 ADR, $540 million volume stock. So very liquid, fast. So it has very good potential, right? It's a mid cap, 7 billion market cap. It can make a big move if it wants to go. Another long idea is Root. This is also kind of starting to get a little bit choppy. But again, this thing has demonstrated it can make clean, linear moves. A little bit choppy right here. It's getting choppy right now. But it's tightened up. It's put an inside day off of this 10 EMA. Right, you have this little flag here. You have this little flag kind of thing right here. Higher lows, lower highs. You have this wick. But it came back up, got bought up. And it has earnings out of the way. So that is another stock I am looking at. This is probably my second favorite long idea. And then my favorite is PLTR. This thing's had unreal strength, right? So we had this set up right here off of this 20. Now this was like an Oklo analog kind of thing. You had this like kind of mini flag right here. And if you go back to Oklo, right, you have the same idea. You got to move up, gap down, inside day, kind of off the 20, off the 10, PLTR, same idea. Move up, gap down, inside day off the 20, push through. And then obviously Oklo never really looked back. You had a kind of a mediocre day one, push through, but it held a low, and then it just after day one just flew. And it ended up going, over like 60%, 73% at highs. So, kind of hoping for the same thing here. We have this double top, came back, putting in a little handle here, and it's kind of like it's like a mini cup and handle pattern. Also like a double bottom. And this is one of the strongest stocks in the market. right? I mean, you had a 6%, 8% up day. QQQ did what that day? The QQQ had, it was up 1%, but it never really got momentum. But PLTR was able to push through that and form a strong day. Then you had the market, gave an inside day, flat, right on the 200. PLTR, flat, inside day, close to this 10 EMA. And again, if the market gets momentum, I'd expect this thing to push through all-time highs, right? I mean, you're only, 7% away. You just need one, 8% candle. You're right there. And so you had this kind of flag right here. And kind of my idea is just that same thing, right here, right? You have this tiny little, you have these little pivot right here. And then you have this kind of flag pattern thing right here. Make it kind of clear. Higher, lower highs, kind of higher lows. You can draw. I mean, you can draw this like whatever way you want to. Doesn't really matter. The point is, it's tightening up at all-time highs. And ideally, like if it takes out this low right here, then it's probably gonna need more time. Because this isn't like a big handle. It's kind of like it's just a couple of days at the all-time high. If it went sideways like for a week or so, like right here, and then went, it would be even better. And so that's kind of like my what I'm thinking. If it takes out this low of this inside day, it's probably going to need more chop around this 10 and 20 moving average. If it takes out the high, then pushes to the all-time high, then the game is on. You have to take the trade, and whatever happened is gonna happen, right? And it's a strong stock, and it can push if it wants to push. On a weekly chart, you broke out of this weekly base right here. Okay, you had 2 strong weeks. Third week, you retested the 5, and now if it's a really strong weekly breakout, it's gonna just push through, and it's just gonna go. It's not gonna wait around or anything like that. So yeah, so through this level, I already have a 60 or a 50 to 60% position in this stock. Through that high, I would try to maybe add it up to like 100% position. I don't. Let me check exactly my position size. So this is a 55. So this is a 58% position size. And I still have like $20,000 worth of buying power, 30K. So I can get this up, probably to like a 100% position is what it would be at if I could add here. No, it would kind of be awkward if it doesn't push through the all-time high level. Like if it gaps up, it's gonna be awkward. It was kind of awkward right here, but it just went. So you kind of just have to trust it. And it's better. It's better this day because you came off the 20 and now you're at the 10 and the 5. But it's still valid. So this is probably my best idea. I think this is a market leader. $15 billion volume, almost a 16 ADR, and it's just at all-time highs. The market's still down from its all-time high, and PLTR is just it's ready to push into new high ground. So market leader, PLTR my favorite. I'd say this is probably like 4.5 stars, like a flag pivot setup, maybe 5 stars. 5 stars if it tapped the 10. Didn't really tap it though, but it is surfing it and surfing the 20. So I'd say 4.5 I think is a fair rating. My secondary watch list is ASTS. This could easily be an EP. This thing's been going sideways since August of last year. This is one of my biggest trades last year in this period right here. You have a big sideways base. Maybe you gap up to like 32, 33, and you gap up to this $30 level on a good earnings beat, something like that, and that could be the catalyst to push ASTS into the next leg, maybe to 50, dollars plus, and that's kind of my idea with that. You know, we'll see earnings on Monday, and maybe it gaps down, nothing ever comes from it, but it is tight, and it made a nice move right here, and the sideways neglect right period. 7 ADR, $200 million volume. This could easily gap up and set up another leg. You know, you look at the weekly, you know, the first touch of the 50, and it's consolidating at previous all-time highs. So old resistance, come support, etc., etc. DJT. Now this thing is not my traditional. Like, it's obviously down. It's not near highs. It kind of looks like shit. But like, this thing can just, it just runs from these levels right here. So this isn't like a good setup or anything. But the stock is known just to like run out of like these bottom bases. So like, if you look at this one, like this thing ran, you know, 200% plus the highs. It makes linear moves. It trends cleanly. So it could be an idea. Out of this bottom section, probably won't play it. I don't know. We'll see. But it is playable. It V-shapes really cleanly. So we'll see what happens with this. Day trade idea. These are just my red to green setups. Lift. Obviously, nice gap up. You know, 26% surprise. Getting into the upper half of this range right here. Could be good just with the momentum it has. Go, same idea. You know, you get out of this range to these highs. 45% move. This one's kind of not that liquid. You know, $36 million volume compared to $600 million. Big difference. So probably lift is better, but yeah. So those are kind of my ideas. You know, we're gonna have to see how futures open, see the gap ups, see what happens. But if the market's going to start pushing, it probably should do it this week. You know, you're super tightened right at this 200. If you're going to push to all-time highs and start like really turning on the burners here, this is where you would do it at these levels right here. If you reject, well, you're looking at like a double top, maybe bear market, secular scenario. I don't want to say we're going to go into secular bear market because I don't think so. We just had one in 2022. But you reject and you push back to new lows, and then, you know, it's a whole different discussion. Everything just looks completely different, right? Now, if you push through this 200, I mean, then, you know, you're looking at maybe something like a bubble could happen, COVID, 1998, 1999, 2000, some like, there's a bunch of different scenarios, you know, that could happen here. But you just got to trade the setups and like see what the market's going to give us. We don't know what's going to happen. We just have to react. So this 200 level is important. You know, bull markets start above the 200, not below. So, you know, if you've missed anything under this, it's not a big deal because the real bull market starts when we reclaim this 200 moving average, which we have yet to do. So we'll see, you know, how we react to that. It's kind of all I got. Bitcoin, you know, pushing up into this resistance, needs to go sideways, like a week or so sideways, but may not get it if this deal news just pumps the market. Could go to all-time highs and then maybe set up again. We'll see what happens with that. And that's kind of all I got. So hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, like it, comment, whatever. And appreciate you for watching.